about how the mechanics of collecting international traffic works. It sounds very simple, you know, a call's generated here and it goes to a termination, but it's the process that it goes to get there. Sometimes those calls will go missing, sometimes they'll go through carriers that will keep the money. So we have a business which is a carrier wholesale business. We carry units all over the world, but we also specialise in collecting on audio text ranges. So we do it on our own ranges, and we also do it on other people's ranges. We have interconnections probably with 200, 300 tier ones, but through networks of people. So we can take a range, we populate it, the calls come to us, we send it to the range owner, and we collect the money on their behalf. This works not everywhere, but you know, it works generally to create a market that becomes more stable. If the calls go missing, we can investigate where it's gone missing and take those carriers out of it, go closer into the originating country. If someone wants to originate in the country, we can actually go and approach the originating carrier and do a deal directly with them to take the minutes out. As Joseph said, you know, the IPRN was a very dirty word to a lot of carriers in the past. Right now, they make virtually no margin. They're very happy to play with us. So it's become a much more acceptable way for them to make their money. And so we've taken people's number ranges that were virtually pointless, they were letting traffic nowhere, because people weren't passing it to them. And now we've created a good business for them where they're actually getting pretty much all the traffic that gets generated comes through to them. This is on programs like voting, sex chat, information services, arbitrage. We don't really care what the traffic is as long as it's not fraud. We have certain measures in place where we'll take fraud traffic down and report it. So this has increased the market a lot. So we carry, as I say, our own ranges, and also for a number of people over here and a number of people who aren't here. So that's really, in a nutshell, where we're at. We put Eric on a minute. Eric's background, my background is more in the value-added services. So I have a company similar to Kwak, which is called Felix Telecom. We do similar things with that, so I'm not going to talk about that. I think that's been covered very well. The carrier wholesale business with regards to audio text becomes very, very important because the world's changed and the way traffic used to come. When I started doing this in 1996, it was a very different market because you didn't have any VoIP traffic. It was all TDM connections, so the traffic would go from one place to another. So we were running Sao Tome as a termination. And there was also no domestic premium rates, so there were very high volumes, and all the settlements were done on a counterweight principles. The payment mechanism changed, VoIP trackers changed, so the whole market changed and got very messed up. It had a lot of people who came in who have no ethics, that you know, they're just looking to go in and steal as much money as they can. So we've been 2 years clearing those people out, making sure they can't get inside our traffic and our clients' traffic. Eric's been in the wholesale since 89. Since 89, so we teamed up to create ArribaCom because you know, I understood where the VAS was coming from, he understood was that. So do you want to give a quick idea of the changes that have gone through and how the...
And I can echo points that both Joseph and Tim have made. I've been in the industry, like Tim said, since 1989 of the telecom industry, and I've done nothing but international since '95, and been around the world many times to many places that most people will never go to and probably don't want to go to. And I can echo what Joseph was saying earlier in his presentation about how important it is to some of the developing countries, especially in the African continent, and also in Latin America as well, because that's starting to come along more so. But in Africa, as an example, Ghana, a line item in their annual budget is the telecom revenue that they generate for the inbound traffic that comes in every year. And it's specifically allocated to the education of Ghana's children. It is a line that to be a line item in a budget as a revenue stream is a big deal for any country. So that just goes back to what you were saying previously about how important it is to helping the underdeveloped countries develop. In response to what Tim had said earlier about the margin shrinking in the international wholesale industry, I was around when China was selling for $1.70 a minute in the wholesale market. Now it's less than a penny. The first direct I did and to Hong Kong, we were selling it for 25 cents and our cost was 2 cents a minute. Those days, those kinds of margins are long gone. You have major tier 1 companies that I work with that are customers of ours that sell their wholesale traffic, both CLI and non-CLI, for 1 to 3% margins. The IPRN opportunity gives them a chance to enhance their margins on premium rate traffic. And they now look for it. And it, very much like Joseph said, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, if they did a deal with you, they didn't want anybody knowing that they were doing the deal with you. Nowadays, they don't have a problem with it because it's helping enhance their balance sheets and their bottom line margin, because as traffic stays steady or increases slightly, the margins that they're making on their traditional business has been falling off, and this helps them enhance that traffic. And by getting a breadth, Tim and I and our other business partner, who I've known for 20 years, by having some breadth in the market, we deal with people like Google and Skype and people who collect traffic from all over the world. So we're able to collect a lot of traffic from a lot of different places to be able to terminate IPRN, which is why we've been relatively successful in a relatively short amount of time, 4 years or so. But I always enjoy coming to the conferences, speak at some conferences that are really large and others that are small like this, and get the same pleasure for me being able to talk about it, answer questions, and always willing to help. So would be interested in chatting with you and exchanging cards, because there may be some opportunities where we may be able to help with you as well. Any questions from anybody regarding wholesale or premium rate or anything else? I know it's not
What sort of traffic do you get from people like Google, and where does it come from?
Well, Google collects traffic. Google Talk is their commercial thing, and they collect traffic much like Skype does. They have customers literally worldwide that will, you get on Skype and you call your buddy in Sierra Leone, and they're not, and it's not going on Skype to Skype, it's going from Skype to Sierra Leone. They've got to terminate that call. So we're just in the chain as one of their many vendors that they have for providing that service.
Right.
Skype has changed the international telecommunications industry. When they started 7, 8 years ago, they were nothing. Now they account for almost 20% of all traffic in the world for international termination.
But that's peer-to-peer rather than Skype apps. Skype apps is a much smaller portion of it.
Correct.
So I mean, if you look 5 years down the road, the telecoms companies are actually very worried that they won't have any traffic at all. At the moment, the GSMA is employing someone to find a way of stopping all the over-the-top services.
WhatsApp, Viber.
Yeah. They won't be able to do it. Yeah,
WeChat.
it's impossible.
They will not succeed.
Of course, no.
It never succeeds. That never succeeds.
Our friend who's doing the consulting for them is happy to take their money.
I think this is a quite interesting point when it comes to all these web providers, and which also again defines the role of our industry in the future. What was interesting to me is when Apple came with its new iOS, which brought FaceTime audio. There was no advertising, etc. Nevertheless, it changed the world. When I'm in a Wi-Fi, and you pretty much know who has an iPhone, especially from the guys you frequently call from, you call for free. It's just cannibalization at its best. And Skype, yes, not so many have this app, but on the cell running. But the next thing, Google Talk, etc. And then I take a look at the figures you mentioned, Skype out or whatever, and we're talking about 1.5 to 2% of all the users who do
a lot of calls,
who do a prepayment or have some money on their account. I think this is one of the major impacts, again, premium rate number industries will have on the whole industry, Because at the end of the day, if you want to consume certain products, you have to pay for it, of course. And now, unfortunately, the industry has taught the people that a voice call is for free. Yeah, okay, you do it via what you do it via your FaceTime,
Right.
whatever. But everybody knows if you're calling an astrology hotline or a psychology hotline or do a voting call, you have to pay for it. And if the content is appealing enough, and I see it with our customers, you have a TV show like Germany 60 Superstar where real massive volumes are processed. This is a good motivation for people to do a pop-up on the Skype account and use it as a payment tool again. And I think here linking the need again of the telecoms and the medias will be a very proper approach, because with each voting line the service is promoted, not just the content, but also the way the payment is done.
Right.
So when BBC with X Factor uses a premium rate number, it's something quite serious.
Right.
And so I think these are very interesting developments over the next year. How this interaction of telecoms and media will interact, and how do we deal with the threat of cannibalization of voice revenues.
Right.
Is X Factor on ITV?
Yes.
X Factor's on ITV.
Okay.
No, I just know that because they went head to head with Strictly Come Dancing, who were on the BBC. You're right. I mean, we have a payment mechanism, which is what it is. As you say, you put it up to Micropayments. We look at those as CDRs, but they are micropayments. They are a system for billing somewhere in the world. The great tool that the telephone has is that it's an immediate response. You don't have to get a credit card out, go through a process. You can immediately just use your phone, whether it's on a domestic or an international number, doesn't matter. You get an immediate response from an audience that you're engaging with. That's the big key to it. The Skype ad service only really works if they've prepaid some money into it as well. Getting them to top that up to use the service just won't happen. It's industry response to a promotion that you're running. Yeah? And so that's, if we're going to get someone like Skype to be a big player in this, they need to get more people with credit on their systems, and they need to promote that.
Indeed.
Yeah. So.
But I guess we're one of the key drivers of this.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's still an education process, because we're moving, as I said, 20 years ago, everything was done on a counting rate principle. We received payments in things called SDRs. I don't know if
Special drawing rights.
I don't know if anyone knows what those are. I don't really use anymore.
They're still used, but rarely.
I mean, the whole reason why a country has a higher calling rate than another country was meant to be so that the money went from rich countries to poor countries to pay for the infrastructure of the telecommunication service of that end. Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's really where we're still at, but it's changed slightly. Yeah? And some countries are putting their rates right down, some of them are putting them higher. We have another business that we run which is really involved in collecting taxes on behalf of governments for revenue assurance, because it's a very big driver. They have taxes on all inbound calls. Yeah. So it's a very much a bigger playing field than just sort of running some arbitrage or running a service. It's a very much an economic micro system or macro system.
Yeah, Joseph made the point. It's enabling and helping lesser developed countries become more developed. Absolutely.
We've been talking to some governments recently that need to get more revenue generated. Yeah, and particularly some of the old oil-producing countries who don't have the revenue there now. They're going effectively bankrupt.
You don't hear much about this sort of outside of
We don't
small
do
events like this.
We don't talk about it.
Is it worth talking about it in a wider sense?
No, not really. Not at this stage. Yeah, there are some things that are reasonably sensitive that you don't necessarily want to open that side of the conversation. It's more of a private conversation, so we wouldn't mention which countries are which are involved.
You're caught on tape.
Yeah.
Point well made.
I haven't said which countries are involved.
Okay.
No, he's been very circumspect.
I will mention a country which is big enough not to have a problem with it, but a country like Nigeria has a vast problem right now, because there was all very much. I mean, they have a lot of infrastructure cost. It was an oil-based society. and the last government that went out stole over $17 billion. Yeah? So they don't have enough money. They are running out of cash in country. Yeah? So now they have to look at where else do they raise money. Telecoms is going to be one of the areas they do.
And they had completely deregulated the market, and the market rate was less than 5 cents.
They have just fined MTN in Nigeria $3.2 billion because they needed money from them.
Really?
Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of changes coming from different places. Countries are becoming much more savvy about it. I mean, it takes a while sometimes the government to understand that the telecommunication service is something that they should profit from. Yeah, or that they should support it. They should actually look after the people that are helping them out. So, as you said, you have some Burundi you're working with. They suddenly realise because an extra $30 million is $30 million they didn't have, and particularly if you're bringing the money into the country.
Right.
Yeah, it's $30 million in foreign exchange.
When you bring 1% of anything to someone,
it's
significant.
And foreign exchange is often what they don't have. Yeah, their GDP is often local turnover GDP. Whereas they need foreign exchange to buy oil, to buy other goods and services, sometimes to bid in the corn markets and things like that. So it becomes very, very important. I mean, the other thing, it becomes addictive. Yeah, once they have it, they need it. Yeah, because they spend it, it comes in the budgets. So you see people put stocks budgets in the budgets. IPRN hasn't really been put into budgets yet. And it's been abused around the world as well. A lot of number ranges have been misused by people here and there, but it's been going on forever. Yeah, all the money's been collected by someone who's meant to give it to the government and it's not gone there. So it needs to be, if we're going to do it properly, we need to be talking to the right people, making sure it's done the right way. And it's lifting the lid on some of the practices that have gone on. Working with people who actually take this as a serious business. Yeah, so Kwak, they take everything as a serious business. This is an industry. We need to make sure that from here to here, everyone is happy with what's going on. Yeah, and not have someone in the middle who's causing trouble, stealing the traffic, not paying the money, yeah, not make sure that the money gets into the country. The whole chain needs to work. The number owners need to make their money, the number generators need to make their money, yeah, and everyone in between. If you take it, if anyone in the middle is not playing fair or cheating the system, it will break down.
How do you sort of keep it clean or clean it up? Just by wheedling them out?
It's difficult. I mean, there are interesting ways that you can do it. I mean, Eric sits on...
but
even that's difficult.
You have to, you need to have sometimes frank, open discussions to start with, and other times you have to go with a hammer, and sometimes it's not you as a company or any one of us as a company that can wield that hammer. It's going to be a governmental agency or the ITU as part of the last resort. And even with some of those things, the bad actors will continue to act badly. But you're never going to eliminate 100% of all the bad actors in any industry. It's just not going to happen. But you try and make it better, you try and make it manageable, something that everyone can live with.
I think it's shining a light on it as well. Yeah, because if someone has behaved badly, and I don't tell, say I've got a road client or a road supplier, and I know this guy, and I don't have anything to do with them with a road trouble. If I don't tell Joseph, they can go to him, yeah, and they can cause him trouble. Yeah, but if we share that information on who the bad people are, yeah, eventually we take them out of the market because they can't operate anywhere. Okay, they come up in different names, but you get an MO, you say, right, they operate under these names, these companies,
these IP addresses,
these IP addresses, yeah, based over here, and eventually you know, because it can sometimes it's a bit like anything. Sometimes it's very few people that are messing it up for everyone, and if you identify who they are, and we can shut them down, maybe they can come back. They come back maybe through smaller and smaller repairs, and become less and less interesting, and then they take their fraudulent systems and they go and look at a different market, yeah, because it's no longer as profitable as it used to be.
I think the most important pillar of all these activities is, and yes, I fully agree with you, ITU, national governments, etc. If we as an industry, we as corporations, we as individuals refuse to work with the guys who play a dirty game,
That's right.
they will be booked out this market within a couple of months, maybe some years. I think all of us know.
Some of them, we all know some of them, of course.
The industry is small, and I think the most important thing for us as players in this industry to set high standards for ourselves, to play, as you said, Tim, a transparent game, collaborative, because then it will be quite an easy game to eliminate these great black players and enforce the good guys. And this again will increase the reputation of the whole industry and make the whole game less risky and more fun. So I think it's pretty much on us.
It's finding the balance between cooperation and competition. Because we always compete with each other, but we need to cooperate though. So that's where we need to do. We have it going in a level, it needs to get to a higher level, I think.
No doubt about that. None of us is here as a hobby, but for a business.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the collateral damage, which is created presently, is a bigger potential than what we can take from each other on
Agreed.
competition.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
We make the pie bigger and then the slice becomes better.